This video will show you how to create a new data source in Report Designer to your Firehouse Legacy database. First, we have to identify what our database is and where it's located. So we'll go to File, All Programs. We'll go to Firehouse Software 7 and go to our Enterprise Edition Tools and our Remote Connection Configuration. In there we can see that it's Tom's Laptop FH is the name of the server, and FH Demo is the database that mine connects to. If we go to the Login tab, we'll see that I use Windows IT Authentication, although you may use SQL Server Authentication using a server login name and password that you can get from your administrator. So what we're going to do is go ahead and open up Report Builder 3.0. Under here, we're going to go ahead and right-click and add a new data source. This one we're going to use is going to be embedded into our report. It's a SQL Server connection. We'll go ahead to build. The server name we can choose from our drop-down server list. And if it's not in our drop-down server list, we can just go ahead and type it in. And we said mine was FH. Once we've entered that server name in, we can come down here and go ahead and choose our database from the list. And by doing that, we actually don't even have to test our connection because we know our connection is good. So we'll click OK. We'll go ahead and rename the data source. And when we rename our data source, we can't use any spaces or anything. We just need to give it a name. So if we click OK, we now have a new data source. With our data source created, we can now go to data sets. And we click our data set. We're going to use one embedded into the report. We can choose our Firehouse Legacy data source that we just selected, so we're pointing to the correct database. If we come down here to Query Designer, you'll see we see all of our tables from our Firehouse Legacy database that can then be added. Our second option is to go ahead and create a new shared data source, which we would do from our Report Manager homepage under Internet Explorer. And under there, we would go ahead and click Create New Data Source here. This would be a shared data source that we could then use over multiple reports as we go along. We would, of course, give it a name. We would enable it. The data source is a Microsoft SQL Server. And then we're going to go ahead and the data source is going to be equal to the name of the server that we're connecting to. And the initial catalog would be the name of the database that we're using. I've got SQL Express in here because that's where mine used to be. I would just type in FH, and now this would actually be pointing directly to my new server. And down here we can use Windows Authentication or the username and password that we're going to use.